Alrighty, all welcome back to the channel. We're back on the internet together again today. We're back on Australia. Australia's decline is happening before our eyes. Let's jump into this news broadcast.
Australia, proudly known as the lucky country, the land of sun-drenched beaches, stable institutions, and rising living standards, is under threat.
Wealth inequality, runaway property prices, and resource dependency are colliding to threaten the very social fabric of Australia. Coupled with that, we have a gambling problem, and our government spends too much.
What about a mass migration and increasing crime problem? So he's not entirely wrong. The social contract for a lot of Australians is broken.
More than $1 trillion in government debt is matched by world record levels of household debt. Yet despite this, more and more Australians are renting. The number of people on welfare has grown exponentially since the introduction of the NDIS, and wages have not kept pace with inflation. Australia still ranks among the world's richest nations, with median wealth second only to Luxembourg. Yet for many Aussies, the ladder to prosperity is slipping away.
It's a tale of two. It's a two-step economy. There's those who have and who are doing well, and there are those who don't have, which is, I would say, probably half of the population. Just taking a punt there. People who are everyday battler, getting up, going to work 9 to 5, 9 to 6, every single day of the week, and are struggling to keep on top of rent, increasing bills, and trying to save maybe for their own home. That's the average punter. And I don't say the average person as a bad thing at all. Like, a lot of people fall into this bucket, myself included. I know what it's like. Then you got the other end of town, people who have assets. So who have property, have been good at investing in the share market, who have been good at investing in metals, particularly gold. They're doing well. So it isn't that everyone's having a rough time, but the people that are having a rough time, the average people out there, their quality of life is getting eroded away a lot quicker than what it may have in the past. Inflation is just eating it away month on month. It doesn't even feel like it's year on year or a longer time span anymore. Every time you go to the supermarket, something's 50 cents more expensive, $1 more expensive. Keep your eyes on the price. Go and get 3 items that you're regularly looking to buy. Just take a mental note. Take a mental note. Then go back in 2 months and you'll say it's 50 cents, $1 more expensive. So this adds to the household burden. And once again, it makes it very tough for people. So they made a point there, and that's why I got onto this tangent. They made a point there around more people are renting and less people are being able to buy. Renting used to be seen as a rite of passage or a stepping stone in one's life. So when you were younger, you rented for a few years with your boyfriend, girlfriend, saved up some money, and then you were able to go and buy a home relatively comfortably. Obviously, you needed to still sacrifice and be stringent with your budget and disciplined, but it was achievable for most people, especially on a two-income household. Now you need 2 high incomes to have a decent home. When I say decent, 3-bedroom home, a little bit of a front yard, bit of a backyard, within an hour of the city. And coupled with that, you're going to be in debt for a very long period of time. So what's the standard? What are we saying? The average mortgage now would have to be $1 million, maybe $800,000 to $1 million if you're looking at a house. And yes, you can get a bit cheaper, sure, but let's just call it 800 to $1 million now is family home, and very easily you can get to 1.5. For the average punter, should I say, for the working class and middle class, well, the working class won't have a chance at a 1.5, but the middle class can. But what does that get you? That gets you 30, 40 years of debt. You're going to be, in 800, 1 million, 1.2 million in the hole. Regardless of what you're earning, it's going to take a very long time to pay that off.
That's because the wealth isn't shared around. It's the money at the very top that's creating an illusion that Australia is doing better than it really is.
According to the latest wealth inequality data, the gap between haves and have-nots is getting greater. The top end of town are doing well, but the rest of Australian society are being left behind.
When wealth is tied to property and superannuation, assets most younger Australians just don't have, that inequality becomes intergenerational. The next political battleground risks putting parents against the youth.
And you think about it as well, the people who can afford properties or own properties, especially now in 2025 and into the future, they're going to need to get an inheritance or be provided with family assistance in the form of the banker mum and dad. I'm talking for a young person, someone say under 30, to get their foot on the ladder, the property ladder, so to speak. Something that used to be a rite of passage and an ambition for many working people is now, it doesn't even register as a possibility for a high percentage of young people now. That's why a lot of people are very, very much in doom zone with it, and they're just going, you know what? I don't know people like this. You know what? I'm never going to be able to save up 300 grand on what I earn. Oh, it's going to take me a long time, and by the time I do that, the market's moved again, and I'm behind. I can't keep up with it. I may as well go get pissed, spend my money, go on holidays, go on overseas trips, take a year off work, and just travel around, and then worry about the future when I get there. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but that's what people are doing.
Retirees against first-time job hunters. Such fights might get ugly, reflected in the way parliaments form around the interests of sections of the electorate increasingly isolated from each other.
It's a quiet fracturing of Australian society, sending a message to young Australians that working hard no longer brings you up.
For older Australians, they feel like years of hard work just aren't being rewarded in retirement as the rules of the game keep changing. Australia remains entranced by mining. Iron ore, coal and LNG dominate our exports. Education follows, but the gap is wide. Our economy leans heavily on digging and exporting. Technology barely gets a look in. Our ranking on the Global Economic Complexity Index has plunged to 105th out of 145 countries assessed. That's below many lower income nations that we'd just rather not be compared with. That highlights in bold the future risks to our prosperity.
So what do we do here in Australia? We dig holes and sell houses to each other. Everything's too expensive. We don't have manufacturing. It's all been offshored. It's too expensive to run manufacturing facilities. You got all these electricity bills, these huge electricity and utility bills. It's just not competitive at all. I'm not saying that's the only reason. Taxes, the government going for small and medium businesses as well. People aren't trying to be as entrepreneurial as maybe they could be because the government has their hand in your pocket. You're a small business. They don't give a stuff if you're trying to grow. You know, they need their payroll tax. They need all these special levies that they're putting on small businesses. It's a complete rot. And so people are not being as industrious as what other countries who enable this do. Think about it. Think about how much we get taxed here in Australia. Say you become a high income earner, high income being over the 190,000 top end of the tax bracket. What do you get for achieving? You just get taxed more. So yes, I get it. It's a progressive tax system and your whole rate won't be 45%. But any dollar you earn over that bracket, you may as well, it's chopped in half, basically. Government takes it. Why would you strive for more? Yes, $0.50 is better than $0, but people just go, you know what? I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at. The risk, the stress, the effort involved of becoming successful doesn't really pay off because the government takes all your money and then they piss it up against the wall.
As technology grows globally, unless something changes right here in Australia, we just won't get our share of the pie. When you can make easy money from digging out what's under the dirt, why invest in high-risk innovation or build technological depth? Well, some politicians are starting to try and answer that. But is it too late for locked-out generations? We saw the slow death of car manufacturing in Australia in the 1990s and early 2000s. While the likes of Liberal MP Andrew Hastie has a nostalgic view that it can be revived, either way, investments in domestic industries holds the key to future generations maintaining the living standards of past generations.
We're just reliant on the global economy. Everything's just about imported. You think about even recently, up until a few years ago, all the canneries, so SPC and Heinz and all those places who used to make all their stuff on site, onshore here in Australia, they all packed up and pissed off. Too expensive. Wasn't price competitive. The government isn't incentivising Australian businesses to stay on Australian shores. They'd rather just piss off and go overseas and pay tax somewhere else. And probably get heavy tax concessions for operating and creating jobs over in international locations.
With technology at the heart of investments, Australia risks being left with large revenues but no robust industrial engine beneath. Government spending is at record levels, so we aren't saving the proceeds of the mining booms, and the taxpayer money being spent is largely going into recurrent expenditure that doesn't grow the economy. Superannuation wealth has reached nearly $5 trillion. That's a good...
Yeah, that's good. They're going to start taking it off everybody, though. If everyone thinks, oh, well, it's all right, it's only the rich people with over 3 million and respectively 10 million. Yeah, they deserve to lose their money. And all the bogans from Maui go and vote for it. Little do they know that they're signing their own financial future away. Well, you think it's going to stop there. They're going to need money. They're going to keep dipping down. Dipping in and going to change around with the settings of it. Superannuation is absolutely ripe to be plundered. That's a whole bunch of money that you have that's sitting there in funds, and the government ain't getting it, and they want it. You can mark my words on that. That's my punt there. They're going to go after it. They might leave it alone now for 5 years, 10 years, but it's going to happen.
Good thing. But much of it is invested overseas in businesses that don't employ Australians or invest in our domestic economy. If Australia doesn't find better ways to encourage investment locally, it won't matter that superannuation moves up to 12%. It will help some Australians into a more comfortable retirement, but the wider economy will keep getting weaker.
Yeah, let's just import people in. That's the only reason why that's happening, the mass migration. It's so the government can get money, tax revenue from the punters that they bring in from overseas who are sold a dream, sold a lie. They come here and they come into shit conditions. Hard to find rent. A rental, got to pay high rents. Paying a lot of tax. I guess it's better maybe than where they came from, but it's not the dream. And they're paying tens of thousands of dollars for visas, going through that process. Government loves it. Fantastic. Beautiful. Free money. Free money. What do you think the economy, or what do you think society more broadly is going to be like in another 20, 30 years if we keep this migration up? We're going to have an Australia with 50 million people in it, bursting at the seams in all the major cities because they're not going to rural areas. Other cities are not being built. Infrastructure is not keeping up.
It's an uncomfortable truth. The profits from our mining resources are largely flowing overseas. Meanwhile, the tax revenue that it generates is being spent by the government rather than being saved for a rainy day.
Then there's Australia's gambling problem. A nation of fewer than 30 million people has 18% of the world's poker machines.
If you don't know why that is, do some research into it, but there are government departments that set up to manage the revenue and the licensing that each one of these machines, every table, every single machine in every single venue, casino, club, RSL, whatever you want to call it across this country, every single one of those machines has to pay a licensing fee of thousands of dollars, depending on the location. Could be 10, 20, 30,000 per machine to the government for nothing, just to give them a permit to operate. So people can go and blow their money and piss it up the wall. Why do you think we have gambling that's promoted so heavily? They make a lot of money out of it. Tax revenue as well from those betting companies. Beautiful.
Australia is less than 1% of the global population, generating nearly 1/5 of the world's usage of pokies. That's a disgrace. We gamble away more than $30 billion every year. For households already under pressure, that's a serious problem government cannot ignore.
And now for the elephant in the room most Australians can see very clearly. Rising immigration. In
I'm glad he got onto it.
2023, 500,000 migrants came to this country, a record. This is fast becoming the barbecue stopper issue people are talking about. Do we need drastic cuts to immigration?
More people places stress on cities, infrastructure and housing supply. Migration has always been part of the Australian story, we know that. But context matters, and right now that context is that we are in a housing crisis. Some argue we need migration for jobs and growth.
Oh yeah, and then I'm going to get called racist. There's always some bleeding heart in the comments here that calls me a racist because, no G-man, it has been statistically proven by research that immigration, it's got nothing to do with pressure on the housing market. What are you talking about, dude? What are you talking about? More people come in, the more people that need to have a place to live. What does that mean? The government or it needs to be able to give incentive to builders to mass produce more homes, and they're not keeping up. So what happens? There's a crunch. And then what happens? There's a lack of supply and there's a higher demand. Rents go up through the roof. Purchasing prices go up through the roof. You also got developers land banking. What's land banking, you ask? Land banking is they're sitting on parcels of land that they could develop, but they won't develop. They release it in tranches so they can control the market, so they can control the price, not to flood the market with homes to make them slightly cheaper. The newly developed homes in the outer suburbs. That's what they do. They hold on to these for years. They've got plans. They buy the land. They hold on to it. So you got all this going on. What do you think's going to happen? Exactly what's happening now, and it's only going to get worse.
Even to build more homes. The argument being that we don't have enough Australian labourers to do it as it is. But the policy must align with supply-side realities. Sydney's medium home now sells for 14 times the average annual full-time salary.
And that's not even adjusted for net. That's gross salary. So let's put a few more years on that. Who goes to bloody Luna Park anymore?
And not everyone works full-time. So they're too expensive right now. Rental burdens have soared. Access to rental properties is getting harder. Mortgage services eats up half the median wage. And new home builds can't keep pace with demand, making the problem even worse. What used to be the foundation of household wealth, owning your own home, is increasingly out of reach for many. For younger couples and renters, it's not just a cost problem. It's fast becoming a wealth building problem too, leaving them behind.
That matters for retirement security, social mobility, and the sense that you're not being locked out of the system, which has its own psychological impact.
Australia risks becoming a renting economy with capital.
What do you mean it risks? There's a lot of developments. You have a look into build to rent or BTR. Google that. The absolute plan is to have mass construction projects all over the country where large corporates or property development firms, they own these buildings, homes, units, townhouses, whatever it may be, with never having an intent to sell it, just to loan them out. So there's actually no more additional housing stock going onto the market with those people. It's more rental properties. I'm not saying anything wrong with renting. Some people really like renting. It gives them flexibility to live where they want. They don't like the suburb. They can move up and pack and see you later. Might want to move around for your job. If your job allows you to do that, go work overseas, pack all your stuff up and piss off. You're not locked down to a certain location because you've got roots there, i.e. you own a house. I get that. Most people do want to have their own home. I don't want to feel like every 12 months or 24 months that someone's going to say, oh, you know what, the rent's going up, or alternatively, I'm going to do it up and sell it, or I'm just going to sell it, and you've got to move. Anyway, let's move on. We've got another couple of stories here, so I don't want to drag this video on out too long for you all. This one is Victorian is unsafer by the day, and I made a video recently about Luna Park, and there was an attack there with some teenagers or young people with machetes. Get a load of this.
All toughest bail laws in the country were exposed this week after another controversial bail decision where 3 men charged over a vicious machete attack at Luna Park were freed. Joining us live is the Liberal Senator Sarah Henderson, who's coming to us from Geelong this morning. Sarah, thanks for your time. Even the judge conceded Victorians feel unsafe, but then bailed them out anyway. So what's your response to that?
Well, Pete, this Victorian Premier and the Victorian Government are completely failing the people of Victoria. We are becoming unsafer by the day due to the incompetence and inaction by this government. And now, of course, we hear that elements of Jacinta Allen's cabinet are blocking tougher bail laws. Imagine being a parent in Victoria. You cannot even send your kids to Luna Park, which is an institution, of course, as it is in Sydney. And
I don't know about that. Who goes to Luna Park? I sort of said I haven't been there. I think I've been there once or twice in my entire life. Wasn't overly thrilled by it too. It's Disneyland from Temu, from Alibaba. But I get what she's saying. It's a landmark, that's for sure. And you may have a lot of tourists go to Luna Park. And so what are they seeing there, or what are they hearing about? Fights, danger in the area. They might not go. But how's this? Those kids, or I think they might have even been 20 years old, whatever, those people who attacked the other people with the knives, machetes, they've actually just been let out on bail, out. They've been bailed. Should be locked up. Should be put on a barge, as I say. Put them on a barge. No food, no water. Let nature do its work. Just let it float. An empty shipping container when it's about to rust out. Just put them all on there. Just let it go.
And know that your children are going to be safe. There is a serious assault in this state every 29 minutes. Car thefts are going up by 42% in 1 year. We have a real crime crisis in this state. And of course, as we've made very clear, we have very strong policies under Brad Batten and the Liberal National Opposition, including break bail, face jail. It's just not good enough. We need to get rid of this terrible government.
This was an issue, and still is an issue, that Queensland faces, though, Sarah, where you've got, despite the laws, more lenient judges. So how much of this falls on the judges?
Well, at the end of the day, the decision that judges make is guided by the law, and clearly, and even now, as Jacinta Allen has conceded, the bail laws in this state are not tough enough. This Premier has consistently refused to impose tougher laws on criminals. This is a state out of control. We've seen the most horrendous crimes. A young woman randomly stabbed walking to work. 2 young kids fatally stabbed in the most brutal attack by youths. It was just horrific, Pete. And even a couple of days ago, outside my own electorate office, there were 5 young kids, like aged 13 to 15. They went on a deadly joyride in a stolen car, crashed outside my office. I mean, what is happening in this state? We've got a weak and insipid government here.
Yeah, people aren't afraid of the police. That's what it is. They know they're going to get off. Then they're going to get a slap on the wrist. Or they know they won't be at risk of any sort of physical danger from police because they're muzzled. They know that they're going to get out. They know they're going to get out on bail, or they're going to get a slap on the wrist and rinse and repeat. I wouldn't want to be a cop in this state. I'm sure there are a lot of police that are very frustrated because they're told not to do their job properly. You got some Karens in the office there watching their body cams and saying, oh, well, you shouldn't have done this and you shouldn't have done that. So they're too scared to do anything.
They are just not up to the job. And now,
anyway, let's move on. We've got another quick one. So furthermore to property, property prices are booming around the country. By booming, there's a lot of people rushing into the market now for 5% deposit scheme. And with the recent rate cuts that have made people a bit more positive about the future. So Brisbane, everyone's running up to Brisbane. Well, I can absolutely understand why, especially a lot of people in Victoria. I know a number of people personally who have left Victoria permanently to go and live in Brisbane. Don't blame them. Sounds like a good idea to me. That's why the prices are going up. People with money, people who have good jobs and can get good employment, who are willing to pay overs to get out of Melbourne.
Welcome back to the show. Well, house prices are booming across Australia, with Brisbane officially the second most expensive city in the country.
To break down the latest data, we are joined in the studio by Dr. Nicola Powell from Domain. Too many D's there for me this morning. How are you, Doc? Good to see you in the studio. What's behind this rise in Brizzy?
Look, I think Brisbane has seen such a change in price point. You know, it's one of the longest stretches of increases in prices that we've seen for Brisbane. I think it's that lifestyle draw. It's also population growth. When you look at interstate and overseas migration, it's running 3-4 times faster still than what it was back in the 2010s. And ultimately, Brisbane, out of all of the capital cities, really does have a chronic undersupply of housing.
Well, and we know that everyone from Melbourne's moving up there, right?
Absolutely.
How much is this due to that 5%? The government's 5% home guarantee scheme. Is that having an effect yet?
I don't think it's quite having an effect yet. So it was expanded on the 1st of October. But I do think what we were hearing is people were fast-tracking their decisions to purchase. So those that weren't first-home buyers, in order to get in before they were competing with more buyers. That's
what I've been saying, and I don't like to say I told you so. I've been saying this since the start of the year, since I made this channel. And I had a lot of people hanging shit on me, saying, G-man, we should make you the next CEO of Ray White Australia. You don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. FOMO, it's human nature. People feel like they're going to miss out. They're going to go and do things that would otherwise seem a bit silly. Especially when it comes to housing, the most emotional purchase you'll make in your life.
What our expectations are, though, it is going to elevate price. We're expecting prices to continue to rise over spring, and particularly around that property price cap, which is set across all of the capital cities. So for Sydney, it's 1.5 million. So we are expecting price pressure to come in.
Sydney's long been the highest, most expensive city, right? Brisbane has been slowly building as well. Melbourne, on the other hand, has almost gone backwards or sort of plateaued. Where is it sitting at the moment?
Yeah, so Melbourne's that interesting city where we're starting to see it really move into an established recovery now. Okay. It really was struggling to move into price increases, but it only needs another $10,000 now to be at a new record high. Melbourne has this interesting kind of dual impact where buyers are seeing that value. That is creating an element of urgency, and you're seeing that coming out in highest clearance rates that we've seen since midway through 23. So the recovery...
So I'm going to tell you now, this is my tip, 2026, 2027, Melbourne's going to take off again because it is, quote unquote, representing value compared to the other capitals. Now, the reason why, and I don't blame it, I can understand why, Melbourne's turning into an absolute shithole. And there's a lot of bad press about Melbourne. And we've got a lot of taxes here, especially for people who are using them for investment purposes and to become landlords. You're going to be paying a lot of additional land tax. So that's why people who would normally invest are not incentivised to do so, and they'll go and do that in other states. Now, not entirely a bad thing for those trying to get in and buy a home, though.
We were expecting to be in full by the end of this year for Melbourne.
All right, if you're having a look around, you've got a couple of properties for us. Let's take a look at, this 11-bedroom Blue Mountains retreat on the market. Just, for interest's sake.
Yeah, look, it's
Too small for me.
quite the home, and actually this is one of my favourite pockets of the Blue Mountains in Laura. And when you look at that price point,
pink.
$3.5 to $4 million. It is pink, and it was built in 1906.
Ooh.
It used to be a nunnery. It's had a massive renovation in 2020. So, I mean, the use case for this one would be a boutique hotel, or if you need 11 bedrooms, it's multi-generational living, right? We know that's on the rise.
Is it haunted?
Is it haunted?
I hope not.
Some people like that sort of stuff.
I know.
I said people say, "Oh, gee, man, who's going to buy all these houses when the price goes up?" There are people with money out there, and what it does is it just leaves people, the average punter, even the middle class, standing there without a hope of competition. You got people buying $4 million houses. Even in Sydney, you got suburban houses going $3, $4, $5 million for a three bedroom brick house. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks all for watching. Hope you have a great Saturday, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Cheers.